The Lord of the Rings is way more than an engaging story. It's based on myths which carry powerful insights. But the first time I read the books and watched the movies, I couldn't see it. It took me 13 years of personal development to finally see these 11 life-changing insights I'm gonna hand to you in this one video. Insight number 1, you were meant to have the ring. To understand this insight, we will now dive into this scene from The Lord of the Rings.
I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had happened.
So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. There are other forces at work in this world, Frodo, besides the will of evil. Bilbo was meant to find the ring, in which case you also were meant to have it. And that is an encouraging thought.
Alright, so let's break down this amazing scene. What we have just witnessed is Frodo take a victim mindset. That's when someone, right, is complaining, is saying like, oh, poor me, look at all these bad things that are happening in my life. That's terrible, right? It's so hard. And I'm this little thing with no power that can't do anything to change that. That's basically what Frodo is doing. And what Gandalf does is help Frodo see it from another perspective. He just first tells him, stop complaining, right? Like, that's what it is. Let's focus on what we can do about it. And then he does even something more powerful, which is he tells him, perhaps Bilbo was meant to find the ring. And this means that you were also meant to find the ring. This is like believing in destiny, right? Like, this is believing in just things happen for a reason. They are not happening against you, they are happening for you. It's all part of a bigger plan. And Frodo was meant to find the ring. I mean, if it didn't happen that way, Middle-earth would have been just taken by Sauron, right? So he was the perfect person to find the ring. So of course we are not Frodo and we don't have the ring, but we will for sure face like situations that feel like a burden in our lives if we are not already doing it. These things that can look like a bad thing first, like a burden, we need to really like elevate our perspective and see it like that it's something that's happening for a reason to help us evolve and just like fulfill our purpose. Insight number 2, leave the Shire. The hobbits start at the Shire. It's the place where they live, where everything is super peaceful. Every day it's pretty much the same, right? Everything is very familiar. They know all between them. And at some point, Gandalf comes, the wizard comes, and just like enrolls them in an adventure. And then since they're like, everything changes, right? Like they step into the unknown. They just live out of like their comfort zone, if you will. So leaving the Shire is like moving away from your comfort zone and stepping into the unknown, just starting your own adventure. And that's where all the real fun begins. Leaving the Shire at the end is what Joseph Campbell, the expert of myths, would call the call to adventure, answering the call to adventure. That it can come from outside, right? Like a friend just comes to you and just very excited, I discovered this thing, let's do it, let's start doing this thing. And it can also be something that just simply you feel inside, right? Or both, that something there, right? That you feel maybe in your heart that stays there, and after 6 months, if you haven't done it, it's still there. And you have trouble sleeping even sometimes if you don't just do it, right? Insight number 3, let the wizard light the way. So what's the wizard? The wizard is an archetype. It's a pattern of behavior that we see across all history, right? Across different cultures. And it's about someone who has wisdom, that sees things that other people cannot see, but that really make a difference. And in The Lord of the Rings, of course, like the main wizard is Gandalf. And he's the one, because it's the wizard, that guides the fellowship and literally lights the way when they are descending into Moria, right, with his staff. And I have found that early in my journey, it was like truly game changer to have like a wizard, someone who has already walked the path, who know the way, who was where I wanted to be, light me the way. It made a difference in just fitness, dating, business, like everywhere, in life in general. And of course, when you start to get more experience, you start to develop your own wisdom. At the end, all these archetypes, you can see them outside, but also each of them is inside of you. You have a wizard inside, you have a warrior, you have a king, right? Insight number 4, honor the little things. To understand that one, we are going to watch another scene, but this time it's going to be about the Hobbit.
Mithrandir. Why the halfling?
I do not know. Saruman believes that it is only a great power that can hold evil in check. But that is not what I have found. I found it is the small things, everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keeps the darkness at bay. Simple acts of kindness and love. Why Bilbo Baggins? Perhaps it is because I'm afraid. And it gives me courage.
All right, let's break down this scene. It's from The Hobbit, but yeah, the lesson applies to The Lord of the Rings. And what we have just seen is like the contrast about Saruman and the halflings, right? And on the one hand, we see Saruman, how he thinks and how he operates is about like intellect, pure mind, right? It's like a brilliant mind that just creates all this technology in Isengard and just makes this explosive to destroy fortress, just a genius. And he believes that it's like this power that keeps evil in check, right? That's what's gonna help him win. But Gandalf, that also has quite a bit of that same power, sees something different. He has lived in the Shire with the hobbits, and he has realized that, especially I think this was, we don't see it in the movies, but there was kind of like a very tough period for the hobbits, like a winter where a lot of them were dying and stuff like that, and they started to help, to just offer help between them a lot and just show a lot of courage. And yeah, Gandalf really saw it, that these little people, right, were just really combating evil in another way that was not like using their like super advanced developed mind, but it was more about just using their heart, right? Like, so there's two key things here. The first one is that usually the biggest difference in the world is not just made by one person that's like a genius and he just outsmarts everyone else, right? It's more about like the regular people that do things day in and day out, and they are helping a lot. That's what really makes a difference in the world. And these people will be like the hobbits, right? And then the second key thing is that how you do the things matter. You can give to two different people the same plan, they do the same actions, but they get a totally different outcome because one person is doing the things just to get the result as a means to an end and is doing the things without enjoying them. And the other one is just really doing the things with care and with love, right? And just the final outcome is very different. Insight number 5, the real enemy is within. So this one is quite counterintuitive because a lot of people just always look outside, right? And even when you watch the movies, the enemy, the orcs, right, come to Minas Tirith or to Helm's Deep from outside. They are marching there, boom, 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 and they attack the city from outside. But always, if you just trace back at the origin of the conflict, normally you see that the enemy starts planting seeds inside. And with time, these seeds start to grow until the enemy starts to manifest outside. So the supreme example of this, you see it not in the Lord of the Rings, you see it in Númenor, how Sauron just gets just into Númenor and starts to manipulate the king and so on and so forth. But in the Lord of the Rings, you see another great example in Rohan with the King Theoden that gets poisoned by Grima Wormtongue, this advisor that comes from Saruman, right? Who wants to destroy Rohan and sends this little guy there to just talk to the ear of the king and start like throwing these bad thoughts, bad ideas that turn the king into this looks super unhealthy, right? Like almost ill person. And you see him like super weak, like depressed, pale, right? And it's not until Gandalf comes and just makes his magic to throw the poison, expel the poison out of the king's body, that he starts to come back again to his normal state and is ready to fight back against the enemy. And at the end, if you fail, unfortunately at the external world, it has all been because this seed has grown inside of you, like it was growing inside Numenor. Insight number 6, descent into shadow. That one is a bit of a scary one. It basically, descending into shadow means going into the underworld. It's the realm below the surface of the world, right? And it's associated with death, with darkness, and with the unconscious. And what you find then in the underworld or in the shadow is all these things that have been suppressed and that you don't see them on the surface. You see these things that you don't show to your friends or to your girlfriend, right? It's like below the surface. But at the same time, this underworld is a place of inner transformation. The perfect illustration of this is Aragorn walking into the paths of the dead. If you remember in The Return of the King, Aragorn, Legolas and Gimli get into this haunted path that leads into the home of these ghosts, the dead men of Dunharrow.
Who enters my domain?
One who will have your allegiance.
These are men who one day were supposed to serve Aragorn's ancestor, Isildur, but they betrayed him. They didn't fight against Sauron. And then Isildur I think that he curses them, and that's why they become ghosts. But what they truly represent is the past that has been buried, right? That they are staying there in the underworld until Aragorn comes there and face it. And to face this, he has to do two things. The first is he has to just claim his identity as a king, right? He shows them the sword. I'm Isildur's heir, right?
I am Isildur's heir. Fight for me, and I will hold your oaths fulfilled.
He has to really own it, which he wasn't doing it at the beginning of the movies, right? Of the books. And so he does this first. He owns his past, his heritage, and then he offers forgiveness, if you will. He offers them the redemption, the opportunity to just fulfill the original oath and just fight for him or for his lineage.
We fight.
And then all this energy that was suppressed from the past is liberated.
Be at peace.
And thanks to this kind of life force, right, this new energy, they just eventually win the Battle of Pelennor. So yeah, the point is that some things from the past can become suppressed in the underworld, and we need to do like Aragorn and just go down and just really own this past and just free it. And this releases all this energy that we can use to create a new reality or fulfill our purpose. Insight number 7, you must die to win.
You shall not pass!
The supreme example of this, of course, is Gandalf. How he falls in Moria fighting against the Balrog.
Fly, you fools!
And Gandalf the Grey is gone. We don't see Gandalf the Grey anymore. He dies, literally. But there is a rebirth. Gandalf appears again as Gandalf the White.
Gandalf the Grey. That was my name. Gandalf. I am Gandalf the White.
And this is like at the end a transformation, right? Like he goes from being this old wizard, the Grey, which is mainly just a guide, right? That's guiding them through the different paths in Middle-earth, to being Gandalf the White, the one that's ready for battle, right? To be this authority also that plays a key role in just both Helm's Deep and also Minas Tirith, right? Insight number 8, throw the ring. Just look at Frodo, right? How challenging it was for him at the end to throw the ring to the fire and destroy it. The ring at the end symbolizes this thing that's like very powerful. It gives us all this power and we just become attached to it and we don't want to just let it go. And it can consume us like it did for Gollum, or for even just like it was not the One Ring, but for the Nazgul, the 9 kings of men, that they just turn into wraiths and they lost their humanity. This is something that we can find ourselves, probably not at the beginning of our journey, but as we start to walk the path and we start to develop our own powers, we can just become really attached and consumed by them and fall into the dark side. I have seen this like in a couple of situations personally, especially in business with money and also in just dating or seduction, right? How you can fall into the trap of just putting kind of like the results and the techniques that gives you the results above everything else, and you just end up becoming this psychopath or this monster, right? I felt the pull really, and I had to step away and just throw the ring to just move on to the next thing, or I would have turned into Gollum. Insight number 9, the eagles are real. This is related to one of the most extreme situations in The Lord of the Rings at the end, when, it seems that everything is lost, right? Like Frodo and Sam are about to be turned into ashes by the lava, the explosions from the volcano. And the Aragorn and the others have lost hope when they are fighting because they are so outnumbered by the armies of Sauron. But out of nowhere, the eagles arrive and they rescue them. So in The Lord of the Rings, the eagles are connected to a higher power. They are messengers of one of the Valar, actually the Lord of the Valar, Manwë, which they say in the Silmarillion that he sits in his throne and at the top of one of the mountains in Valinor, the place where they are across the sea, right? And he oversees Middle-earth. And when he sees that the heroes have like reached their limits and it aligns with the will of the Ilúvatar, the main god, then he sends the eagles. They are like his messengers and they go and help. So to me, the eagles represent what happens when you are following your purpose and you have arrived at this extreme situation that everything seems over, but then you receive this like help from out of nowhere, right? That you didn't expect. And it saves the day. It helps you fulfill your purpose and keep going. Insight number 10, love is sacrifice. This insight comes from the main love story in The Lord of the Rings between Aragorn and Arwen. And what makes this story so unique is that Aragorn is a mortal. He lives longer than a regular man, but still. But Arwen is an elf, so she lives forever, right? And for her to be with him, she needs to become a mortal and just let go of her immortality. That's a big sacrifice. But she makes it for her love to him.
You said you'd bind yourself to me, forsaking the immortal life of your people.
And to that I hold. I would rather share one lifetime with you than face all the ages of this world alone. It is mine to give to whom I will. Like my heart.
Similarly, Aragorn also has a big sacrifice. It's not about his immortality, which he doesn't have it, but it's about his mission. He needs to fulfill his quest and he sacrifices himself to do it, just putting himself in these extreme situations, right? And then after he sacrifices and just he fulfills his purpose, then they become married. Insight 11, return home. That's what the hobbits do. After they complete their mission, their purpose, they go back to the Shire. And here there's an important distinction between the movies and the books. Because when they arrive back in the Shire in the movies, everything is perfect. But the reality is that in the books, it's not perfect. Like Saruman has taken over and he has corrupted the Shire, industrialized everything. So they have like still like something to do. It's not over. And what the hobbits do when they go back to the Shire, the 4 hobbits, is they help organize a rebellion that would not have happened if they didn't arrive, right? If they didn't come back, the Shire would have like been taken by Saruman still. So the key thing here is that the hobbits can do that, can pull this rebellion off, because the 4 hobbits that arrive in the Shire are not the same that the ones who left the Shire. They have changed, they have evolved. And because of that, they have all these new skills and abilities and powers, right? That allow them to just kick Saruman out of the Shire and just defeat and succeed with this rebellion. This is also something that in the mythical world can be referred as bringing back the elixir. So you go into a quest, you discover something that's really powerful that just made a big difference in your life, and then you want to bring it back home to help other people. It all works in cycles. You just get in an adventure, you finish it, but then this opens the door to a new one, and again, and again, and again, which makes life very, very fun journey. To summarize everything, just leave the Shire, throw the ring, and return home.